Have you ever wondered why some nations hold on to vast fortunes only to let them vanish like mist, while others build empires from nothing but their bare hands? The answer does not lie in the figures of a bank account, but in an invisible yet far more powerful asset, which is language and cultural identity. If you choose to watch this video until the very end, I commit to you that you will understand the underlying laws of the global economy, where wealth comes not just from gold and silver, but from the ability to master the soul of a community. Prepare your mind, because the next 15 minutes will strip away the raw truths of how a power system can erase a heritage, and how those pushed to the brink find a way to be reborn. The United States has always been known as a land of dreams, but behind that glamour lies a silent civil war between cultures. Louisiana, a name that evokes the nobility and pride of the French in North America, is now a painful testament to decline. In the year 1960, this land was still vibrant with the French language, with 1 million people using it regularly in their daily lives. However, time is a ruthless thief, and by the year 2023, that number had plummeted tragically to only about 120,000 people. Even the pure Cajun French bloodline, which is the very soul of this land, now has only 20,000 people left who retain the speech of their ancestors. Meanwhile, a new force, the Spanish language, has quietly risen with 160,000 speakers, taking the position of the second most spoken language. This collapse is not a mere coincidence of history, but the result of a calculated assimilation campaign aimed at turning distinct individuals into identical gears in an industrial machine. To understand the future of power, we are forced to look back at its origins. From the early days when the French first set foot on this soil, the 17th century brought not only warships, but also a grand ambition for cultural expansion across the Great Ocean. In the year 1682, under the patronage of the Court of Versailles, the French declared sovereignty over the lower Mississippi River region. They named this land Louisiana to honor King Louis XIV, the most powerful Sun King in French history. Louisiana at that time was not just a narrow state like it is today, but a vast territory occupying nearly 1/3 of the current area of the United States. The French built a colonial system based on trade and a relative respect for native tribes. This openness created the conditions for a unique hybrid language to be born, blending academic French with the rich vocabulary of Haitian and Canadian tribes. The strongest bloodline creating the enduring identity of this land is the Acadians, poor farmers and fishermen from western France. In the year 1604, they settled in the region of Acadie, now Nova Scotia, Canada, with hopes for a peaceful life. However, the Game of Thrones between Britain and France pushed them into misery when the British Kingdom captured the land in the year 1713 because of their absolute loyalty to their faith and mother tongue. They refused to swear allegiance to the British Crown. The consequence was a brutal expulsion in the mid-18th century, pushing thousands of Acadians into a journey of blood and tears toward the south. By the year 1800, the survivors of this purge found refuge in the remote swamps of Louisiana. Here, they did not just survive, but molded a proud Cajun community with its own distinct language and culture. Cajun French was not just a means of communication. It was a shield protecting them from the encroachment of the outside world. However, their golden age was soon threatened by the rise of a new empire called the United States. In the year 1803, the Louisiana Purchase turned them into American citizens overnight, opening a historical chapter of oppression and discrimination. After taking control, the United States government began a systematic campaign to destroy every trace of French influence. They understood that to control a people, the most effective way is to destroy their language. At the end of the 19th century, a dirty media campaign was launched to label the French language with poverty and ignorance. French speakers were marginalized from economic opportunities, rejected by large corporations, and despised on the very streets where they were born. Real power was transferred to English speakers, leaving the Cajuns in a state of isolation and humiliation. Legal changes dealt a fatal blow to the Francophone community here. Starting with the amendment of the state constitution in the year 1845. Legal documents were still required to be written in both languages to ensure fairness. But that tolerance soon vanished in the year 1864, when the bilingual requirement was officially abolished. The peak of cruelty occurred in the year 1921. When the new Constitution of Louisiana permanently banned the teaching of French in schools, the education system became an assimilation factory, where children were brutally punished just for daring to speak the heart of their parents. The image of children being beaten or forced to kneel just for speaking French became a deep psychological scar for many generations. Fear crept into every family, causing parents to choose silence and not pass on their mother tongue to their children for fear of them being rejected by society. The French language in Louisiana faded away, like a candle running out of oil before the cold wind of American assimilation. For many decades, French was considered a burden, a sign of backwardness that people wanted to shed to reach the American dream. Ironically, it was World War II, the bloodiest conflict in human history, that became the lifebuoy for the French language in Louisiana. When thousands of young men left the swamps for the battlefields of Europe, they suddenly realized their despised French was a strategic weapon. They became talented interpreters, decoders of vital information, and the only bridge between the Allied forces and the local French people. This event completely changed the United States government's thinking about the value of linguistic diversity, turning the inferiority of the past into a national asset. In the year 1968, a new wind blew through this land when the Council for the Development of French in Louisiana, also known as COFIL, was established. This was a calculated effort to correct the mistakes of the past and leverage the power of culture for economic development. The state of Louisiana began to invest heavily in bilingual education programs, inviting teachers from France and Quebec to teach. They realized that a multicultural community would have a much greater attraction for tourism and international investment than a completely assimilated land. Pride in French origins began to return, brighter than ever in the minds of the people. In the year 1980, a historical legal victory took place when the Supreme Court recognized the Cajuns as a protected ethnic group under the Civil Rights Act. This ruling was not only a recognition of honor, but also a solid shield protecting them from discrimination in the workplace. French began to reappear on signs, on product packaging, and in television and radio broadcasts. People began to understand that preserving French was not about being against America, but about enriching the identity of a multi-ethnic superpower. However, this battle for survival has not yet reached its end, as currently, French in Louisiana faces an invisible but extremely powerful enemy: biological extinction. The generation of the most fluent French speakers has all reached the age of 70, and the generational gap is widening day by day. Young people today, though encouraged to learn French at school, still feel a lack of a practical environment to use the language. In a world dominated by English and the convenience of translation technologies, maintaining an ancient language requires extraordinary character and perseverance. it does not stop at social barriers. The Francophone community in Louisiana is also threatened by the harsh fluctuations of nature. Climate change and rising sea levels are turning the southern coastal lands into dead seas. Isle de Jean-Charles, a final fortress of indigenous French culture, has been almost completely submerged, forcing residents to relocate elsewhere. When a land disappears, the stories told, the lullabies, and the memories associated with the language also vanish. This geographical loss is a cold warning to any nation that underestimates the protection of its cultural territory. But in the darkness of extinction, we still see flickering sparks of hope from the Gen Z generation in Louisiana. They no longer feel a complex about the past. Instead, they use social media and modern podcasts to spread the beauty of Cajun French. For them, speaking French is a way to assert a unique self in a world that is slowly becoming saturated. This uniqueness is the pure gold in the modern attention economy, attracting millions of tourists to experience a very different America. An America carrying the breath of Versailles and the wildness of the swamps. Saving a language is no longer a mere cultural movement, but a large-scale economic strategy. A unique identity is a magnet, attracting investment capital from the Francophone world and creating thousands of jobs in the tourism and arts sectors. The lesson from Louisiana shows us that those who know how to preserve their heritage are the ones who own the most sustainable future. Prosperity does not come from chasing temporary trends, but from fully exploiting core values that no competitor can copy. When looking back at this entire journey, we realize that language is not just a means of speaking. It is a way for humans to think about power and freedom. A nation that loses its voice is a nation that has lost control over its destiny. The story of Louisiana reminds us that systemic oppression always begins with the deprivation of the mother tongue. But revival always begins with understanding one's own value. Never let the priceless assets of your ancestors vanish under your hands, because that is the only foundation for you to stand firm amidst the storms of history. Thank you for patiently going with me to the end of this compassionate yet inspiring story. Always remember that culture is the master key to opening the doors of wealth and power that ordinary reason cannot see. Preserve your identity as you protect the blood in your heart, for it is the only asset that time cannot steal. If you find this video valuable, please share it to spread the message of national self-esteem and a sustainable economic vision. See you again in the next journeys to discover the great secrets of humanity. Goodbye, and always maintain your own strength of character